That was a bizarre experience. Honestly, you're gonna have to listen to what I say about this film and not what I score it. I'll explain why I score it what I score it, but this film is not for everyone. Hello, my friends. Do I look different to you guys? Something's changed? No. You've changed. I haven't changed. I am in 2024 and I'm giving you the power of editing, the power of time travel. It is October the 4th, 2024, spooky season. What a flashback. And I am gonna go see a film that is playing at a local horror film festival called The Rule of Jenny Penn. I thought I would do a come with me today. I don't know how this film is going to be released in the future, but by the time you're seeing this, it has been announced. The horror mystery thriller is about a former judge who is confined to a secluded rest home. Trapped within his body, he must stop an elderly psychopath who has sinister intentions with a puppet. That is one of the strangest blurbs I've ever read, and this film is directed by James Ashcroft, who has a really interesting background. There are a character in Black Sheep, and they directed Coming Home in the Dark, which is a really dark horror crime thriller from New Zealand. If you liked Speak No Evil, you should definitely check that one out because it is a ride. But this film, it gets even stranger because it stars John Lithgow and also Jeffrey Rush. But I'm here today to be your guinea pig and let you know whether this one is worth your time. It sounds like a very interesting premise. Let's see if they can pull it off and what the heck this doll business is about. Let's go check it out, spoiler free. I'm gonna let you know whether it's worth your time. Let's go. That was truly bizarre. That was a bizarre experience. Honestly, you're gonna have to listen to what I say about this film and not what I score it. I'll explain why I score it what I score it, but this film is not for everyone. But truly one of the most menacing films I've ever seen. That was disturbing and almost genre bending. I mean, they're all genre bending, to be fair. You know, nothing really fits into just horror, but it was such a strange, surreal film. It really reminded me of Patrick meets Pin in a very odd way inside a retirement home. So this film is set in New Zealand. I knew it was a New Zealand director, but I didn't know if it was based in New Zealand or how that came about. It is about, as I said at the start, a judge who he goes to this, I guess it's not a retiring home, it's more of a nursing home because they do have care facilities there. There are people looking after them through daily activities and they're all in-house. And there he finds out that there is a strange character who kind of has a hold over this facility. It's, I wouldn't say cat and mouse, but very much a psychological nightmare of being stuck. And it really isn't a very personal story, which I thought was really interesting. It follows these characters, but in such a broad sense where you're kind of a fly in the wall. You're not really with him or seeing just his perspective. I mean, obviously you're seeing things happen to the main character and everything he has to go through. And he's got a really interesting arc as someone who comes in from a position of power, being a judge and being taken care of and needing other people. So that whole arc is really interesting in its own, but I feel like you're such a fly in the wall to this situation, and when it gets disturbing, it is really unsettling. It's just menacing. And John Lithgow is so interesting in this role. He and Jeffrey Rush are actually executive producers in the film, and I can tell why. Also, John Lithgow, they give him a New Zealand-ish accent. I was really surprised by that because we don't see that often as New Zealanders or Australians, Americans or Canadians coming over and doing films and absorbing our accent. So that was really interesting. He tried. There was a couple of slip-ups, but I think he did pretty well overall. But what I thought was so beautiful in a really strange way about the film. It's very raw and very real. They weren't afraid to really give it its all and show some of the more, I guess, unflattering angles. It is showing the real and the raw, especially for these people at this time of their lives. And there's some nude scenes. And I thought that that was really raw and vulnerable of them. And I like seeing people really give it all. And from them being executive producers, they really stand behind the messaging of this film. So I thought that was really powerful to make a story about senior citizens and really make their voices heard. So it's interesting. It's a horror movie, so it's not really in the best light, but it is a light. I liked the film because it was incredibly unique. It is so terrifying, the trauma and the tormenting that happens in this film, especially with people who aren't able-bodied, people who have disabilities, who are living with disabilities and can't protect themselves, truly some of the most vulnerable people. So that whole idea was very interesting, but also it has so many elements that remind me of Unsane, which is completely different, but the idea of being in a facility where people have control and full control over you, and it's the whole gaslit situation that really plays out. I will say that this film, I think the editing of it is very liberal. It's not a very tight film. It very much is back and forth, and it's kind of like that painful reliving of awful situations and the frustration. So a lot of people won't like the frustration element, but what I really liked was it was just truly a unique setting. It's not a super polished and glossy film. It really is raw and stripped back and to the point, but I just think that it felt so real. It felt like that was a real place, and no one in that except for the two leads were actors, because I recognize them. I felt like it was really soulful, but also so twisted in that regard, because it felt painful to watch. I gasped 20 times during that film. When I talk about it now, I realize it doesn't sound like a super unique film, but the atmosphere and the feeling it gave me was really unique. It feels more like a slow burn kind of drama film with a little bit of horror aspects, but I'm never going to take anything away from being a horror film. It just really is in its own bubble, and some of the stylization they did with more, I guess I would say, the surrealist kind of stuff, if you do watch it, you'll understand what I mean, I thought was fantastic. And I just almost wish it went harder at times, because when it was disturbing, it was outrageous. And because all of the sequences and I guess the points they were trying to make, it felt like there was slumps in the middle of it, and I wasn't sure what direction it was going in. I did get a little bit lost in the source or in the middle. So I think if it was tightened a bit and went a little bit harder, it would have been absolutely fantastic. But I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was just a very strange, bizarre film. One of the strangest films I've seen in a long time. I mean, who can say that they've seen a film recently about people being tormented in this kind of facility through the eyes of an older man, about another older man doing it to them with a doll? We haven't even talked about the doll. The doll is epic because it's so, the imagery of this doll, it's simplified, it's again, like everything else I've said, it's raw, it's pulled back, it's stripped, but the way it's controlled and the things that happen, it's just creepy. It's creepy in a very strange way, in a way that's why it kind of reminds me of Pin, I guess, in a very strange way. This was one of the strangest films I've seen in a long time. I enjoyed it because of the unique aspect. I enjoyed it because of the heart and soul that I can see that's put into it to make it come alive, and I think that they did achieve their objective. I just think that it's a little bit loose. I would like it a little bit tighter, but I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's for everyone, but I do think if you're into the strange and unusual, and I really mean that, you have to be into the strange and unusual. If you turn this on and get 10 minutes in and go, this is too weird, I warned you. You have to be into the strange and unusual and a little bit pulled back and raw. If you like that in your films, it's going to hit. It's going to hit hard, so definitely check it out. For scare, I would give it like a 2. There definitely are some gross scenes. It's more disturbing things that are inferred, but some of the scenes I do think have some liquids. I don't know, it depends how sensitive you are to that. Some people aren't. And it's just more unsettling than anything. I found it to be unsettling and menacing. And for originality, I'm going to have to give it an 8 out of 10. I know it doesn't sound like an original premise. I promise I'm leaving out all the good stuff so you can figure it out yourself, so you can find it out yourself, so I don't spoil it for you. But if that sounds like something you want to check out, definitely do. I'm going to leave in the description of when it's coming out, where it's coming out. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Here are some videos I've been working on lately if you want to check them out. I hope you have a fantastic day. And remember to stay safe and stay spooky and stay away from that freaking doll. Bye, friends.